So the 8 Film Project is a project with the Khumani San community, and it's a project which trains local people on how to tell their stories, how to make films about them, how to edit their films, and then put their films out to the world and to see and for themselves. This was a 2-year project from the time we started and got the money from the National Lottery. There are 2 aspects. The one aspect is making of the films. Now, making of the films is not a simple thing. Maybe it was if we just sent somebody in to make the films, but we actually identified local people. We trained them on how to use the equipment. We trained them on how to write scripts and then how to edit these into films. That's the one component. The second component is trying to gather all the archival footage we could that had been taken of this community over the last century. So they're one of the most filmed communities, most studied communities, but the community don't have access to a lot of that footage. So we helped them compile these archives and have placed it on a website for them. We trained the participants in a very interactive way. So it was very much a hands-on exercise. So we identified people who are already filmmakers. We asked them to go meet with the community, to train the community. We developed a training manual which took people through the whole process from writing a script to identifying your story, to working out who needs to be filmed, and then actually training them on how to use the equipment. So that was a week-long process, and they actually filmed themselves in the process of actually doing the training. So it was a hands-on learning by doing exercise. So part of the funding we got from Lotto was to actually purchase film equipment. This wasn't going to be a project where the African Safari Foundation ended up with the equipment. The equipment is with the Communal Property Association. It's been looked after by them. Part of the training was on how to use it, how to store the equipment, how to clean the equipment, and the equipment is actually owned by the Communal Property Association. I think the kind of stories they've told is very much, it's their stories. We started off with the discussion around what the themes would be, and once they agreed on the themes, the students then did their own scripts. And we had a big debate amongst ourselves, for example, whether we should now bring in other archival footage, but it was agreed with them, and given the quality of their scripts that they wrote themselves, we decided this was going to be their own stories, which was a departure from previously where you had outsiders come in and saying, this is the story of the Bushman. This was very much a case of these are our stories, we want to tell it from our perspective. From the time we first identified them to training to the time we finished was nearly a year. And from what I saw there was a lot of development. Just having a look at the first films they made of themselves to the final films, you can see that they definitely improved in terms of how they set up the shots and certainly how they told the story. I think they also were a lot more confident about the way they were doing the shooting, in the way they were doing the actual questioning and interviews. They certainly had developed. And I think lastly, the fact that some of them afterwards came back and said we'd like to learn how to edit, and they did learn how to edit, shows that they've developed. And I'm hoping that by now they'll be able to offer themselves as skilled people to filmmakers that come into the area. So I think one of the nicest parts of this project was when we took back the 90% finished films and showed the community and asked them for their input. And we filled the Andries Vale Hall. The community came and saw themselves. I think they laughed a lot. They were very excited to see people that they knew telling their stories. And I think they really appreciated that. We did get some feedback, which we then changed some of the films on the basis of that. But it was definitely one of the more exciting things that were part of this project. We could not have made this project without the National Lotteries Commission. We didn't have the resources, the community did not have the resources to buy the equipment, to fund the training, to fund the editing, etc. So without Lotto, we could not have made this project. And we are grateful to Lotto, and the Communal Property Association is very grateful to Lotto for participating in this and making the funding available. As the African Safari Foundation, we think the #8 Film Project has been a success because I now know that there are community members in the Khumani San who are able to make their own films, who are able to work with filmmakers, who are able to record the community's events and are able to tell their own stories. And I think on the basis of that, this film project has been a success.